3.10.1, the project progress report. It's point 1, isn't it? There's a number missing on there. 3.10.1. Can I have somebody please move that we receive the project progress report? Moved Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Peoples. Those in favour? Carried. Alrighty, let's go.
So, Council, the project report there, I'm not sure what's happened. The background hasn't covered across the correct wording there. That still refers to the last month. So, June, February, there wasn't a whole lot of money spent, particularly in the capital space, and also in our special operating projects. But we're able to sort out a few of the projects. So the flood damage was one that sort of all the funding finished in December, but certainly starting to get those payments finalised, and we can start now to the rounding out of that project, so that can start to get the final bit of that funding through. So I'll take the report as read, and we can just have comments, I suppose, to various officers for specific projects.
Start with attachment 1, goal 1. Couple of projects there. Any comments on any of that?
Through Mr. Mayor, the Aramac pool is completed. I've read in my report. Splash pad and shade.
It's come up pretty good.
Sorry, the Aramac pool is complete.
It might take, through you, Mr. Mayor, take a month or so for those costs to go through. And
Yeah, so we've received the invoice now, Mr. Mayor, to be paid this week.
Will that be under budget?
I think it's slightly under budget. Yeah. There's 2 funding bodies there, so it's just under.
Further comments?
To Mr. Mayor, I'll just give you an update on the toilet block for the showground. That unit has been freighted, and we've received the necessary documentation so the DA can be completed, which will be completed after the location was confirmed today.
Thank you.
And town hall floor, like we said, has been completed, and I have now, because there was grant funding left over, acquired the replacement of the dishwasher.
Great. Next goal. The special operating projects. Goal 1.
So just some of the comments there around the horse paddock and the money being re-evaluated. We'll consider that as part of the budget review next month.
The cattle yards with extra work required, is that going to be another budget, or are you just going to extend that project?
Through Mr. Mayor, hopefully we can use some of the horse paddock funds to complete it. It's only labour now that's required. All the materials are being purchased, so it's just labour to finish it off.
Stove and that at Alpha Town Hall, any know of any movement on that?
And
Put that down in here.
Right, goal 2.
Question I've got, I'll get the water mains.
There's no program to use it in the next 3 months, so anyway, is there? Well, that'll be a saving to the budget.
Which one was it, Mr Mayor?
The water main replacement, $250,000 there in just replacement of them. It's council funded.
Chris, we don't have a program for that for the next 3
No,
months?
not, we could work up, but it would be achievable in this financial year.
It's not scheduled service. Not proper assessment.
I have spoken with GBA about it, and some of those mains have been identified around the showgrounds, being the old concrete asbestos pipe. That would be poor timing to try and undertake that at this time, this part of the financial year.
This part of the tourism season, this part of the West Tech here, this
We'd
part of...
be now looking at probably October, November.
2023. Or 2024.
No, 2023 would be the earliest, but
Still got a
that
plan.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And what our criteria is and why we're doing it.
Yeah, no more questions? Goal 3. Narberthong Road, that's progressing.
Yeah, so we've had a pre-start with the contractor looking to commence from the 17th of April.
Okay.
There's probably, looking at that, as I understand it, program's still to come, but it's probably about a 2-week program.
Okay, thank you. The floodway upgrade on Stagmount. Is it gone out to?
No, it hasn't. I'll get an update from senior work supervisor on that one too.
What's the 8,000 gone to?
I'd have to check
Take
and
that,
take it on
it's
notice.
fine. It's fine. Just a weird amount for,
Mm.
I guess, nothing.
Mm.
Too much for the mesh and it's not enough for, you know what I mean?
Understood.
You can pull that up.
Unless it's been designed.
I suspect that may have already occurred. I'm not sure when.
That'd be about right. Engineering costs usually
Yeah.
between 8 and 10%, aren't they?
So it's pretty cheap.
It could be an error, Mr Mayor, I'll have a look at it.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, the curb and channeling, there's two lots of curbing and channeling there. Box Street hasn't been started, has it, or?
No, so the program for that, that's after. We won't start that until after we finish with our TIDS work out on Barkey Aramac Road.
So you think it's going to happen this financial year?
Yeah, absolutely, must.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it?
I know we're sailing close to your comfort zone here, councillor, but you're right. Just relax. Think about that.
That's why I'm rocked back in the chair, Mr Mayor.
Think about your good lunch you just had. Just relax there for a minute.
Councillor Hanson, tap him on the arm just to relax him.
Would that be the similar answer for Beach Street? The curb and channeling in Beach Street?
Pathways on Beach Street. It's both.
Yeah.
Pathways, curb and channeling.
Yeah, it was good to chat about that.
Oh, it's in progress. That one's in progress, I'm sorry.
Is it though? It's not, is it?
No.
Just pathway.
We're just in progress.
Might have just, it's written next to it. Halfway down that section. Same thing, maybe a bit of design. Or, design, surveying,
Sorry, was that for which one was that one?
location of Boree on beach. Underneath.
Yeah.
Sorry.
66,
Sixth one down.
Yeah, Beach Street.
That's Corbin Channel.
That's, that'd just be design.
So will we do like those two at the same time?
Correct. Oh, sorry, Box Street, Ash to Elm.
Isn't it the one
That's-
that's in consultation with the state
Yeah.
about?
We are, so we're still speaking to TMR about those works. Not sure of the genesis of those discussions. But we don't believe that the figures for that are correct either.
As in they're under?
Yeah, significantly under. So we've got, we have received some feedback from TMR. There is some design work that has been done for that. But we won't progress that in this financial year. My apologies. Mix those two projects up.
Even though it's R2R?
I'll have to speak to Jenny about that. It was certainly something that both the CEO and I weren't aware of at the time.
It might have been a surprise to a few.
Yes, it certainly.
Righto. Goal. Oh, sorry, I did want to check there. Another one that I think possibly is finished, is it? Is the gravel on Drummond Slopes Road?
I'd have to check with Kev.
And the rural address signage, is there enough left in that bucket to complete what we talked about at the last meeting with the road signage for properties and turn-offs?
I'll get an update from our senior work supervisor as well.
And here, Mr. Mayor, we are using the top up for now the thumb out of that too. That 100K for rural address signage. We use that 25.
Yes, councillor.
How about it? Oak Street parking has been on the radar for a long time. What's the signage? It's just got signage. What's the?
Councillor Arthur, that was your request. What was that about?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, initially it was more so to provide, like, say, caravan parking and overflow parking, mainly in front of that block of the main street around IGA. And my interest or intention was, to either put down a hard stand, but then I think it changed to just installing signage from memory.
Continue on from that, Mr. Mayor. I asked the question 6 months ago, and it was completed. There was signage completed, but there's no signage at all over there, and we've still got it here in the budget.
Sorry, where was it completed?
Well, I was informed that it was completed where Councillor Arthur and I are talking on the other side of the road line. But it never has been, there's no signage there. We've had this discussion quite a few times about, trying to park caravans somewhere, and we have suggested to put some signs somewhere to divert caravans over the other side of the railway line and park on the other side of the railway line. I'm sorry, I don't know the name of the street, but on the other side of the railway line.
Mr. Mayor, it's Poplar Street.
What's it?
Poplar Street.
Poplar Street. And I thought that was what that line there covers. But I must be wrong.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my recollection is originally it was a bigger ticket item we were going to clear some area or look at how much of that footpath railway reserve we could use, put a hard stand there, and then my recollection was it was reduced to, at this stage, just putting some signage up to direct whether it was caravans or bigger vehicles or cars and trailers or rigid trucks, that there is reasonable parking within walking distance over the railway. I don't know how well that scope got defined operationally, but as in what signs to go where.
What are we talking with that? Do we have to start again and just think about what we want there?
To you, Mr Mayor, the Director of Works and I did look, was it earlier this year?
Yeah.
We went over.
Oh, probably late last year. We've been over and had a look at it. I've discussed it with district manager, but it hasn't been progressed beyond that point. We discussed location and potential scope of what might need to be done there, but we haven't progressed it.
Mr Mayor,
Councillor Peebles?
those top two lines there with the flood damage, and that work's complete, so there's probably about 2.2, 2.3 that we're going to get back, that's correct?
Well, we're not going to claim, yeah.
Yeah, not going to claim. All right. So we costed that to start with?
Chris?
I'm not following how a budget cost has come up against either of those items. I don't understand how that would be the case. They would be approved works and then paid on actuals. And I'm not sure how a budget cost of any of those figures has come about.
I think the finance manager might correct me if I'm wrong. I think they were because that's carryover. Some of that is worked off what the actuals were. Estimated actuals would have been at the end of last year, based on what we were expecting. So we had when we did the budget, we've got to put a number in there of what we're expecting to spend. So
Okay.
that would have been where those numbers come from, I think.
So, when the flood damage package is approved, it is approved, say the event, the 19 event would have been approved to
A value of, so a submission value would have been approved by QRA to, let's say, round figures, $25 million. They would have then, under those existing arrangements, QRA would have paid council 30% of that total, about $8 million, and I think that's probably pretty close to what they would have paid at the time. Then council would make claim against what those actual payments or actual cost of works were. Let's say that I think that they would have come to something in the order of $10 or $11 million.
Yeah, so the total approved value of works is not necessarily what it costs to actually do it.
Not at all. No. They are benchmark rates for approval purposes only, and then paid on actuals.
Does that answer your question, councillor?
Yeah, and so really when we say we've got 20 million worth of flood damage in front of us, they can probably take 20 or 30% off that.
Typically, sorry, I think I didn't quite hear that, but I think you'd be saying that we would typically see market value as typically being inclusive of PM costs, around 65 to 75% of costs would be a fair guess of an approved submission cost. Value, sorry.
So you said, councillor, you said about 20%, so potentially as high as 35% would not be spent of most packages.
Yeah.
Which, when you're talking tens of millions of dollars, it's probably okay, but when you're talking a really small claim, that's important to remember. If you've got a $3 or $4 million claim, We've really only probably got $2 to $3 million worth of actual work in that.
Yeah, and that's determined by the market. You know, if the market comes back and says that the actual cost is over submission value, we'd still be going back to QRA and saying, well, cost of doing business is $5 million. You've approved submission value of $4 million. They pay on actuals, so they pay what we claim.
Right, further? Is that land, oh no, that's further down the houses, it's land, so. We haven't got any land earmarked, oh yes we do, but it hasn't gone through either, has it? We're still waiting for a freeholding application. No, and that could be tomorrow, but it could be in 6 months.
Probably more 6 months, Mr. Mayor.
As it turned out, that figure's not quite enough either, is it? Is it 280?
Are you talking about the community houses, Mr. Mayor?
No, but maybe I have the two figures the wrong way around.
Yeah, reserve one was 225.
Yeah.
Reserve one was 225, Mr. Mayor.
It was, okay, thank you. So that's for the land here,
Yeah.
Alpha Golf Club, Muddaborough Freedom Park.
I'm not sure about that.
Should
The land back amount I put in was 225.
There'll be a resolution come to council that when that invoice gets sent to us to be paid anyway, so we'll have the detail around that then. We've already moved it, if we went back through evidence, we'd find it anyway. The other $1 million that may come into play today as a result of today's decision is the contribution for the BRES, once the necessary approvals. Obviously the other trigger, for that is the state government funding. So that whilst we've put the necessary approvals in place, which was part of the trigger mechanism for that to be approved or paid, the other one that still hasn't yet happened is the state government hasn't approved their funding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, even realistically, like if the state government was to say, all good, funding's ready, would that happen in the next 3 months? Do you think? Like,
There would potentially be the need for some movement early, yes.
oh, okay.
Just to execute the sale agreements that are
Yeah.
behind that contract.
Yeah.
So establishment JV.
May not need the whole mill, but
Yeah,
I think
fine.
money would start to flow, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, anything further in goal 4?
Mr. Mayor, the Village Green lighting is complete. And there's a cost saving there.
Mr. Mayor, we don't have an actual plan for the town entrances, do we? Like,
No, that was
there's no
what
actual plan, it's just there.
that's what the funding was to develop, was the plan and to bring it into place. We would sort that, yeah. That LGGSP funding that we sought for that was not back.
60-40 component.
That was our 40.
That's all.
Just through you, Mr. Mayor. The project tool was on the sculpture trial, and that's the destination was actually picked. Is there any sort of timeline on when they expect to be up?
Or
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, I'm just seeking some advice from the Director of Works and Director of Corporate Services on the best suitable toilets for it to be put out there. And we have chosen the Grey Rock Reserve just because we own it and don't have any trouble with land tenure and whatnot. And I did send an email out to all adjoining landholders of the sculpture trail and I didn't get any responses at all on anywhere to put the toilet. best location.
L5. General questions overall?
I think we're all glancing at it, not glancing, looking, Mr. Mayor, at the, there's quite a few items there that, alpha gates, town entrances, public rest areas, murals, there's quite a few things there that we've only got 3 months of this financial year to go. We, keep an eye on it, won't we?
Yep. The murals, I think we've heard, there's no requirement for that at this stage. But it would be a check.
I'm out, council, to take questions on, when you've had a good chance to go through it, fire in questions and we'll provide responses.
Alpha Dip Yard upgrade hasn't been started, or hasn't been started?
I don't believe so.
First name in here, but yeah, the entrance, we don't believe it has.
I think the town supervisor and the senior supervisor are still scoping that out.
Sorry.
I think they're still scoping that out.
Thank you.
No further questions? Right, we go to questions on notice. No, actually, I'll do this. Councillor Rogers is leaving the room because of the possibility of a moment of a mayoral minute that relates to the Muttaburra Sculpture Festival, which she has a declared prescribed conflict of interest in already, and so therefore has left the room at 1:39. Councillors, you'll recall in my mayor's report at the February meeting that I reported on a meeting that the CEO and I had as a result of our decision to request further information at the January meeting of council with respect to the community group, the QCWA, Muttaburra QCWA support requests for a number of activities in and around Muttaburra. Excuse me, my voice. You'll note and perhaps recall that I said at that meeting we would develop a plan, and then subsequent to that plan being approved, we would we would inform the community group of what our staff estimated those costs to do the works in the manner that they presented them in that request to us back in January, that you all have copies of. And then they also advised that the event's been deferred 12 months to allow for the establishment. Paula and a number of staff have looked at what's required in terms of the walking track, that graded track that you'll recall they requested on the inside of, well, we didn't know where, but it turns out definitely on the inside of the town fence. The installation of the placement of some gravel in some low-lying soft areas that are currently not gravel, as the rest of the track is already. The establishment of some watering systems to support tree planting. We've done an over estimate there to make sure that we're safe. And as I promised that community group before it came to council, we let them have a look at it, so they didn't think, oh, it's too expensive and to amend the request. They have subsequently provided some, excuse me, they have subsequently provided some feedback to where they think we may have overestimated some of those, to give you an indication that they think it can be done simpler than perhaps our estimates are. Councillor Peoples, sorry, do you want to declare an interest in this as well? You're on mute, Councillor. Councillor, you're on mute.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
Yes, Mayor, I'll declare a PCOI. We're going to start talking about any purchases that might go on there. I'll exempt myself from the conversation.
Councillor Peoples is leaving the meeting at 1:43.
And Mr. Mayor, the other thing you've got to discuss, I've probably got a PCOI there too.
Don't think it will be discussed today now.
Okay. So have you got anything else?
Questions on notice, Councillor?
Yeah, okay, I've had it with them. I don't think there's, yeah, Mr. Mayor, I might, if you don't need me, I don't think I'll return to the meeting, because that's, it's all straightforward there by the look of me.
If we do need you, I can contact you and you can rejoin.
Okay, that'll be fine. I'll close this down so that I'm not listening to it yet.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.
See you, Councillor Peoples.
You'll have to turn him off. Just leave the building, won't you? Or nervous.
So, we did indicate to the community group the intent to get this information to the March meeting to better inform you, so that we can go back to our original request and consider the support request that was given. Literally got this information back from the community group yesterday afternoon. I got it in my hands from Paula around 4:30. So it obviously isn't agendaed for that reason. We just didn't have that material to provide you.
I know.
Are we still recording?
Still going.
We need to.
You jump the gun.
So I'm a bit more comfortable presenting this than I was the other one for your consideration, because we have already had, this is the estimates now to back up the initial support request that we didn't have in January. We had all the details and none of the money. We now have, provided by the district manager, the senior work supervisor and the town manager and the plumber. So 4 different council staff have contributed to this, and the red writing is estimates from the community group. We, down the bottom, our staff have put, if you just look at one of the gross, or the greater, more significant differences, the staff have estimated a kilometre of gravel over an area. They believe there's only 20 metres that matter. It's probably somewhere between the 20 and the kilometre. But a kilometre is sort of about the minimum that council staff are big on putting around, so they've just estimated that, and if they only need a couple of truckloads, well, they only need a couple of truckloads. But if it costs to do the full kilometre over time, it would cost the material to get it dug and put there would be in that order of 13,000. So I present that to you now to consider whether we would support the request as was presented to the January meeting, now that we have some more information. Well, we always had the information, we just didn't have how much it would cost, and we wanted to clarify in our minds where and when and what it would mean. So, yes. Questions?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the timing for this now. I know you mentioned before that we looked at it, so will it happen this financial year? Or?
Yes, that's kind of why we're presenting it. The community group, which, because they've deferred their event for 12 months from July this year to July next year, they're really keen to get some of the key elements of this put in place so that it's got 12 months to settle. So, and I think there's especially in the terms of getting trees established in an area that's notoriously slow to grow trees. It is what it is, I guess, in that respect. But yes, I think that sooner rather than later is what the group have anticipated in terms of starting the project forward. You're right.
Yes, Mr Mayor.
It's 3 years to me. The gravel costs of 13 grand, is that a gravel pit that council owns, or we actually paying for that gravel?
No, that's
What
just
is the $13,000 cost?
No, through you, Mr Mayor, that would just be gravel that's in Muddaborough, it's quite there's gravel, you know, all around a lot over there, so it's not, we don't have to bring it in or anything.
Oh, I'm just saying, what is the $13,000 cost if we actually own that gravel, we're not paying for it?
truck,
Yeah, that's
loader, labour.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that further up. Yeah, the trucks to cut the gravel and that at $360 an hour, and we reduce the operators. So those costs there are actually included in the 13 or?
No. Cost of the gravel is what we charge out as the private works, like,
What we actually charge.
Yeah.
We're not actually paying it, it's not a cost to us as such.
Perhaps not a cash cost, perhaps not a cash cost, but it will still come up as a cost in our,
There's a cost, yeah.
in our monthly accounts, yes.
So it's not actually $13,000 cash we're going to have to put out.
Paula?
well, not technically, I guess, if we own the gravel, but
We already paid for the chair, so it'd just be like an item sitting in store.
But there's a difference to me, is if I'm going to give you 13,000 cash, I'll give you gravel that we own. We're not going to actually have to spend that 13 grand to give it to you.
no, but it has cost us to get it there.
It's a cost to the council in
First
a
place.
way, we're not actually spending that $13,000.
Not again, we probably already have, I think is the point. Like we've pushed it, we've paid for it to be pushed wherever it was, or we've pushed it ourselves. We've loaded it, we've carted it, we've stockpiled it, so.
It has
The-
cost us.
This is the backside of the outgoing, would be that when we put it into this project, we'll say that there's 13,000, if you put a kilometre of it in there, there's $13,000 worth of gravel have gone in there. But you're right, we haven't had to go to a local privately operated quarry and give them an additional $13,000.
So, excuse me, Mr Mayor, are we discussing amended cost of 8,270, or are we discussing the
The
30,000?
red is provided as the sideways side look from what the community group believes it will actually cost to do it. The black is our estimate, so you would assume as a decision maker that it will cost you what's written in black. The red is just is the feedback that's been provided after we let the community group see the estimate. I would disregard the red,
Yes.
other than that's the community group, so I wanted you to see their sentiments around the costings. That's the only reason I asked Paula to include. We would assume that it's going to cost us $7,400 for the walkway, all the way around town to be watered, piling, pipe fitters, plumbers, the whole lot. The plant and equipment to get the walkway, the staff have advised that it could be 2 days with the grader, 2 days the operator of the grader, the backhoe, that operator, truck for a couple of days, all of those things add up to $9,235 is the estimate. The gravel, yes, Councillor Hanson, not a cost, but still a value, valued at 13,000. And then the plumber to do a bit more work on that sprinkler with an offside is going to cost about $800. So your total cost is about $30,000. Total estimated cost. So if you were of a mind, to keep progressing our conversation, if you were of a mind to support the initial request that was presented to us in January to provide it, we could approve in principle an operating budget of $30,000 based on the information we've provided today.
will there be any LRCIP money or works?
No, because this
Works
is
money?
not LRCIP, because those projects have all been nominated and this is coming in now.
Nominated, okay.
Yeah, and the new round of LRCIP is not yet open for submissions. And Works for Queensland have all been lodged and submitted. Correct? Yeah, they're right. So no, there's not really any current non-discretionary or discretionary grant funding dollars that we've allocated that would really apply that I can think of. Or that we have not allocated, I should say. Councillor Plum, what are you thinking?
Thinking lots.
Through you, Mr Mayor, sorry to butt in, Councillor Plum. We do have around $40,000 in Goal 1 for watering systems, regional watering systems. We've only just started to use that. But there is $39,000 there in watering systems.
Well, even if it only funded the watering system, you'd be looking at, by our estimate, $7,400 for the equipment and another $800. So you could fund, of the 30 that we're looking, around 8 to 10 of that could be funded through that, because it's exactly what it is. It's a regional watering system. That'd be a perfect thing. And it could be Muttaburra's turn. We've installed a number of those watering systems in Alpha in the last few years, so we could perhaps consider that. That's a good one. Councillors?
I'm all for it, Mr Mayor. I think if there's a way we can do it, it's a benefit to our community and we'll give it a go.
Councillor Gleeson?
When we look back through sections there that we've allocated a budget and there's quite a few dollars there that haven't been looked at on for it.
Councillor Arthur?
Yeah, I'm for the idea, it's just satisfying myself with the process.
Well, I can now tell you from the beginning that I'm not overly happy either, but if they hadn't have submitted that detailed, I wouldn't be asking you on the basis of that one pager that you got an hour ago, if we didn't already have the substantial volume of information in January to work on.
Yep.
And unfortunately for the community group, although they have been rather insistent about this March meeting, they were a victim of timing with their submission for that we considered in January, in that we had such an early December meeting, which probably caught the whole community off guard. They probably thought, normally we're that second or third week. We met the 6th, 4th or 5th of December. So, and I think their letter actually came in like the 29th of November, but the agendas had been compiled. So, well, not that I always vote with you on the basis of process, Councillor Arthur, but on this one, I can outright say that that's not the most, our staff are not going to hang their hats on that in the terms of the professionalism, but we're trying to work to a time frame that satisfies a community group.
Yeah.
And really for no other reason, there's no other reason for us to rush this. Councillor Plum, I didn't hear you anything other than you're in knots there before. I'm wondering if you've untangled a few of them.
I'm quite happy for it to go through. I'm just trying to get my hair around. That's all. And the benefit to both sides.
Mr Mayor, we're going to bring the other resolution forward, or are you rewriting a resolution here?
I was just going to bring a resolution today that we approve the request from the Muttaburra QCWA for the installation of a walking track and watering system, and approve a budget of $30,000 for that project.
In this financial year.
And I wasn't going to mention funding sources, but we've obviously got some elements of this particular project that could be funded. as per, sorry councillor, as per the community request application lodged by Muttara branch. Councillor.
Would you just split that up with the value of $30,000 cash in kind?
Correct, yep. So to approve a budget of up to consisting of, yep, so after the 30, consisting of, it's not cash at all actually.
No.
In kind, there's no cash in this 30 at all. That's right, yeah, sorry, good point. We're not actually giving the community group $1. Approve a budget of up to $30,000.
Yeah.
We're providing it to ourselves, it's our own road, it's on our land, it's our own watering system, like.
It's just in support of their
Falls
request.
and Muttara Sculpture Trail project.
Yeah.
Is it the community request or is it the Muttara Trail Project Committee request?
Oh, the original community, the grant request come from WA Monday.
It did.
They were going to do it themselves and then we funded it.
So should that be there?
Well, I have said, I've put community request application lodged by QCWA
Oh,
Monday.
sorry, I didn't see that.
That's referencing it because then anyone who's following our minutes or our decision-making tree can refer to the original application, which has not been amended at all, except that the event is not proceeding in 20. That's the only difference, Paula.
Maybe you could just put up to $30,000 in kind. That way it covers it, it's not actually cash.
Okay.
I was just going to say, through the chair, I don't know if it'll be in kind because we're delivering the project and it'll become our asset.
It's not really, it's,
So,
I just take it kind of,
So what do you want?
just leave it, it's ours, so it's.
So from a community grant request, it's morphed into a little mini project.
It's a council project. It's support of the.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what's happened. I hadn't thought of that until.
No, well, that's on just trying to argue with myself, and it's
He's going there, it's not easy.
no, it's a battle of wits with an unarmed man.
Don't worry.
No, it's all. No, it's probably easier for me to reconcile and support if it's gone from that community grant request to evolved into a mini project, I guess.
I think, I mean, as I said earlier, the staff I wouldn't want to hang out on this, but they have done a considerable body of work on providing this estimate. I mean, it's only been provided today, but because we could have had this polished up for you, because I've had this for 4 or 5 days, we just wanted to, we indicated that community group to give them some feedback on it, to make sure that we weren't, and they haven't actually disagreed with anything we've proposed, except how much we said it's going to cost. Like, it's not like they said, oh, we don't want a watering system anymore because it's too dear. That was probably why we indicated let them have a look at it, because if they saw the price of that, they might go, you know what, we'll cut the water or something. But they're still saying no, they want everything. They're just a bit argy-bargy over what it costs. But yeah. Okay. Do I have a mover?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse.
I'm saying to go back to item, I'm only looking at the minutes, not the agenda, but item 374, Muttara Reuse Recycle Festival. In the, there's some money on the minutes, but is the agenda, in the agenda, has it got QCWA?
Yes.
It has, that's all right.
Yeah, they're the submitting body.
If they were doing the project, they ones with public liability insurance.
So if we had, yes, that's right. If the festival had gone ahead this year, we would have given the cash grant to the Muttara QCWA. They were the ones that formally lodged the request as an incorporated body. That other group is not incorporated.
Thank you, I wasn't quick enough to go back to the agenda, but I found the last minutes. Thank you. Right. Mover.
Councillor Hanson, then Councillor Gleeson seconded. More formal debate. Speaker against. Perhaps not a speaker against, anyone who just wishes to provide comment? Call the vote, those in favour? 5-0, motion carried. Councillor Rogers can return. Sorry, this is so quick. Can I have somebody please move that the questions on notice report 4.1.1 be received? Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Hanson, those in favour? Carried. And there they are. If I may now move to this week's. If I can start on my left, please, Councillor.
Very nice to meet you. I spoke to Chris about this yesterday, but one of the community members have brought up the low visibility on the corner of First Street and Beach Street when you head south. Really low visibility where you give way there. They were wondering whether council could do anything about it for safety reasons, but.
Question noted.
And then someone else wanted to know whether when we do the mosquito fogging, do we do every street? Because he thinks that his street is mixed. And I said, well, I'll just ask what the procedure is. Because there's probably a random, like, I don't know if every single street will be done. So he was just curious about where we go.
Thank you. Get the officers to respond.
And also questions about the fountain out at the Recway, whether there's a predicted time that might be working. And then also there's, someone mentioned I know that Jenny's already aware of this. Jenny, the erosion from the rain that's been caused by the downpipes under the deck. Someone asked what we were going to do about that. And then my last question is just, is there an audit meeting coming up very soon or in the near future or no? Someone told me probably May. Is it May? Yeah. I think that's what we told.
Yes, it'll be, we need to set a date. We haven't set a date yet, but we do need to have one well before the end of the financial year.
We'll have to, I would imagine that will be that meeting will need to approve the Shell financials at least.
Yeah, and also I'll outline, we'll discuss some of our asset valuation positions papers as well.
That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Plum.
Fine, thank you.
Councillor Arthur.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Council's position on the use of barbed wire in fencing on domestic blocks in town area, like not on the extremity of town where we've got.
You mean between two residential houses?
Yes. Yeah.
On a.
At that level, not a high security fence, but at easily access level. I couldn't see that we have a.
Yeah. Let's have a look.
Yeah, I did have a cursory look, like.
Yeah. And if not, then we'll have a further discussion in a briefing session about the genesis of your question. Any more?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Hanson.
Point, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor, please.
Mr. Mayor, Artesian Hotel, the how we're progressing, number one. Number two, we're starting to get into a busy time of the year, and the security fencing, footpath fencing, the extended footpath area. Yeah, that is my question. The extended footpath area nearly starting to need attention. We're getting into the high tourist area, high traffic area. High traffic season, I'm sorry.
We'll get councillors a briefing on that.
It's complex.
Any more? Councillors, the next general meeting we will have for you a policy to create the standing committee that we referred to today for the purposes of delegated authority from this meeting. So we may adopt that as the first order of business, and then that we might foreshadow a meeting of that standing committee on the same day as the general meeting if there is any further applications like we saw today, so that can be agendaed to that standing committee. So don't be surprised if you see there could be some extra special type of notification for these meetings coming out because we've never had a standing committee in the history of the BRC. So we might just have to go through some instrumentation. If you recall, at the beginning of the term, you as a council have to make a decision whether you are going to operate with a committee system or not. We may have to unpick something because we obviously elected not to. Portfolios don't exist, all that. But this is a slightly different thing. It's legislated in the Act. There'll be clear procedures we'll follow, and we'll have a draft policy for you to adopt as the first order of business, and then the second order will be to appoint those councillors to that committee, or the policy in itself might actually name who they are anyway. The versions that I've seen today have actually got named councillors in the policy. I personally have a bit of a problem with that because it means every time council changes, the policy has to change, whereas if you were to, by separate resolution, appoint the councillors to conform with the policy of the standing committee, it probably makes it a little bit less clunky every 4 years. But anyway, we'll take advice from King & Co and the officers on that for the next meeting. That being said, thank you, officers. We'll close the meeting at 2:09 p.m. My voice is just completely
Mr. Mayor, just turn your voice.